Hi there, and welcome to Michigan Matters. He's a household name to many as Judge Greg Mathis appears in millions of homes each day via his hit TV show, Judge Mathis. The Detroit native is here to talk about the city where he was born and grew up. And he'll give us an update on what he's up to these days. Then, businesswoman Denise Illich and Republican PR spin master John Trescott join us for a roundtable discussion about Detroit, the bankruptcy, and where the Motor City goes from here. But first, it's a sit-down with Judge Greg Mathis and a discussion about Detroit today on Michigan Matters.
From CBS 62, this is Michigan Matters with Carol Cain.
We're so pleased to welcome a man who really doesn't need an introduction for the millions who tune in to watch him each day on his weekday show, Judge Mathis, which happens to be seen on CW 50 WKBD, our sister CBS station, at 4 p.m. and also at noon each day. Judge Mathis, it's great to see you again here in the studio. How you doing?
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm doing fine. This is a beautiful week, and I love Michigan weather like this when I come home.
Versus last week when it was 900 degrees. This is more like San Diego weather now.
That's right.
Yeah. So how is the show doing? I know your station is, your syndication is growing by leaps and bounds. How many stations are you on now in the country?
Nearly 300, and we're doing well in our 14th year, and it's certainly a blessing. And I love coming home where I spend a lot of my time and trying to pay back all the generosity that has been given to me as a lifelong Detroiter. So,
well, it seems like only yesterday that you were the youngest 36th district court judge ever elected. How old were you again?
I was 34.
34, okay. And I know you did that for a few years and led to your successful TV show, but your story really is so inspirational. You grew up here, you were born in Detroit, grew up here, had a little trouble in your teen years, and you had your mother intercede here. What happened?
Yeah, I was a troubled youth, as many people know, and they've heard, quite frankly, about this a lot. But as I tell people, I'm never going to stop talking about it until all the street youth have turned their lives around. So I don't mind continuing to say that I was a troubled street youth who went through the penal system for a short time, a little less than a year, and my mom kind of played with me as she was in the last few months of her life suffering from cancer to turn my life around, and certainly, if nothing else, will inspire you to do so. That did. And then there was the opportunity that I found in college as a result of affirmative action. That's why I've always been a supporter of that. As a kid, I dropped out of high school, 10th grade, went to the penal system, came out and was able to get in college. And so that is really what changed my life, inspiration and opportunity.
How was it again, we hear so often about young people on the streets, they get hooked up with a bad crowd, whatever the story might be, they have nothing else to do, so they get involved with a crowd, not up to good things. You were able to break away from that, and I know your mother was a big inspiration to wanting to do it, but how did you do that?
Well, it was a couple of things. One, I had the ability to. One of the things you find in those in the penal systems is a lot of the guys at some point, they say, I want to change my life around, but they don't have the tools. They've had a failed education system. My mother was a committed Christian, a Seventh-day Adventist. So for 6 years, she sent me to the church school, which gave me a very strong educational foundation. So when I did determine to change my life, I had the tools. And then it was removing myself from the environment, which is hard for most folks. But I was able to leave the streets of Detroit and go to college. There weren't many thugs in college, so I had nobody to run with.
Well, in
so
fact,
that was it.
While you were at Eastern Michigan University, where you did your undergraduate degree, you also found politics, which was a salvation of sorts. And how did that happen?
Well, after seeing the disparity, I come from tough housing projects in Detroit, and you know, there was a lot of black militancy in the early 70s and 60s. I'm a 60s baby, and so when I got to Eastern, I saw the disparity. I said, no wonder folks are protesting in the inner cities, because these folks are living good lives and the inner cities are suffering. So I said, I want to change that. I want to get involved, and I found that public policy is the best way to change that, and so that's what caused me to enter politics.
Well, in fact, you also, in running for a judge, you've also, even back when you were in college and you were just getting your sea legs as far as turning your life around, you were giving back to the community and setting up programs to try to give back and help you're in fact some people who are still in the gangs that you had left behind and so forth. And how did that come about?
That's a funny story. My first year, the first summer after completing college, I went back to my old neighborhood, the Herman Garden Projects, and wanted to try and spread the good news that, hey guys, you all can get in college with a GED and you can get financial aid and pay for it. They said, we don't want any parts of that. They kind of got with me, if you will. I still got the scar on my head and said they didn't want any parts of that. So that's what really inspired me to start an agency at a church so that I wouldn't have to deal with individual at a time. I said, whoever wants to come in the door for help, I'll give you some help.
And we're going to talk a little bit more in the next segment, but you started a community center, which is on, it's on the...
It's on Greenfield near 7 Mile.
Okay. And how long ago was that? And what's the overall mission?
We purchased the building about 12 years ago. Prior to that, we were working out of small offices in churches. And so I was inspired once I had a couple of nickels to purchase a building to do so. And we provide training programs, mentorship programs, we provide ex-offender programs, and we feed and house the shelter and house the homeless. As I tell people, provide for them for sure and give them clothing.
And I know in this economy that work is never ending here, particularly in the city of Detroit here. I know that we're going to talk, in fact, about Detroit and some other things after this, but we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Judge Greg Mathis after this.